Well, hello there, Rosemary. We got Cassie A. We got Gary Spikes. Nice to see you there, Gary. Welcome there. Rita, nice to have you, Rita. We got Gene Hudson. Welcome, Gene. How's everybody doing on this wonderful afternoon? Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Nice to see you there. Kelly Jo, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, wonderful. Is it hot down there in Florida?
Oh, yeah, 100 degrees today.
Welcome there, Eric. Nice to see you, Eric. Hello there, Val. John, nice to see everybody. A little twist up. Good evening. Welcome. So, Kelly Jo, what do we have going on tonight?
We have a guest, her psychic medium, Althea Jacob. And she's written books and she's quite interesting. So we're going to have her on as guest. I'm going to interview her and see how she got into it and talk about her book and talk about how she does her work. And it'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, come on down there and welcome. And how are you doing? Welcome to the Bigfoot Outlaw family. So introduce yourself, some background information on you. And so what is the story behind you?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the intro. My name's Althea, and I have been doing psychic work for as long as I can remember. When I was 7 years old, I was seeing angels and light beings in my room and communicating with them and thinking that everybody did that, and later found out that wasn't quite the case. And then as I got a little older, I started studying and working to refine the gifts and add different gifts onto it. And most of my adult life, I have been in the service of others, trying to do whatever spirit called me to do, whether it was healing work or psychic work or medium work. I worked at psychic fairs for a while. I was teasing, and when I first talked to Kelly Jo a while back, it was like psychic boot camp, because you would sit down and somebody would sit down and you'd have 15 minutes, and no matter what they needed, whether it was read my palm, read my aura, clairvoyantly tune in, can you talk to my cat, can you talk to my uncle, can you talk to whoever, it was my job to be of assistance and help them. And over the years, I had normal day jobs and corporate jobs, but I was always called to do the metaphysical things more and more in my heart. And then at one point, after working for a major Fortune 500 company for 18 years, I got the very clear message from Spirit that I should leave there and do this work full time. And so I started doing that and became a life coach. And then life took a few twists and turns along the way. But in the process, I wanted to be that spiritual life coach to help people be that bridge and also be that voice of straight talk, because too many people out there try to make it sound all mysterious and spooky. And it's really a human potential that we all have. We all have an intuition. We all have spiritual gifts. We all have the ability to connect to spirit. It's part of who we are. We're spirits having the human experience, right? We just forgot that somehow. So it's like, remember. So that's a big part of what I like to do is just be candid with people, give them the straight talk, and tune into spirit, however is required, using whatever tools seem to be the best fit and match. And then recently I started putting out a couple of books, and I'm working on a few others, doing retreats and all that kind of stuff. And I just got into podcasting, and when I started in this field, and when you did too, Kelly Jo, there was no such thing as the social media and being able to take a Zoom class and tune in on YouTube or do live chats or any of this wonderful stuff. We had to do it the old fashioned way. So now I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to do my own podcast, and I'm going to be a guest on other people's podcasts. And what a fun way to be able to reach out and get to know people around the world and just see where it leads. So I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so grateful you asked me to be on your show.
You were telling me that you have Marilyn Monroe as a muse, and you say,
no. No, the Muse of Monroe is the Monroe Institute. And the Institute is this wonderful retreat center in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. And at this retreat center, they offer all kinds of, it's basically a consciousness institute. And they offer all kinds of wonderful classes. And if your audience hasn't been there before, please do check it out on monroeinstitute.org. It's phenomenal. But over the years, as I've gone there for different retreats and workshops and classes, I noticed there was this muse-like energy and this portal that would open up, and information would just come flooding through as fast as I could write it down. And when I started talking to different friends and other participants there, they were having their own type of experience based on what they loved and wanted to do or needed to know about. So the businessmen were getting new ideas for proposals. The artists were getting inspiration for paintings. The musicians were having songs channeling through. So there's this definite muse-like energy there. And that's part of what I was writing about in the book, The Portal to Potential. That's my most recent one.
This is her book.
Yeah.
And I apologize for getting that wrong. I thought it, but I stand corrected.
Well, it'd be great fun to, well, you know, I don't know for a fact that Marilyn Monroe is not one of the guides in spirit. You know, that would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? You're like, imagine the secrets she could tell and share.
And then there's the other book, The Creative Now.
The Creative Not Now. Yep. And that's a life coaching book with a lot of the secrets of how to restore balance in your life today. And what led to that was with doing all of the readings that I was doing, especially during the fair days, I noticed a lot of the same topics and issues kept coming up for people. And I thought, you know what, why don't I just do a little book and put it out there with the same kind of advice that was coming out live during those fairs and put it out there for people to be able to read. And that was my first attempt at a book 8 years ago. I laughingly refer to it as my bathroom book because the chapters are so short, you can basically, you know, bang out one in a setting, so to speak, unless you're having a big problem. But yeah, it was just a way to get out there and learn how to get things from my mind to that piece of paper.
Well, you find that it's basically the same questions: finance, love, health.
Right, exactly. And lately, what I'm finding more and more people are wanting to know about is their life purpose, because so many people feel overwhelmed with their life. They feel overwhelmed, like caught on the hamster wheel, right? They get up in the morning, they do their chores, they go to work, they run some errands, they come home, maybe they do a few more chores, have some dinner, relax a little bit, get up the next day, do the same thing. And the weeks go flying by and the months go flying by and the years go flying by. And they don't have that joy in their life. They haven't figured out, you know, how to express that creativity that they've always wanted to express, or work in the field. They're you know, they got into something right out of school, perhaps, and they just never thought of, well, how do I get from here to that job or that career or that owning my own business that I always wanted to do, right? And they don't know how to bridge the gap between where they are here and how to get there. And that's one of the things I love doing as a spiritual life coach, is helping people figure that out and working with them to build that plan, right? And because, you know, so many people, you ask them, what do you want? They say, I don't know. How can that be? Well, if you don't know, who knows, right? You know, well, what do we need to figure it out, right? Let's figure that out together.
You live in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's kind of a little bit of my background there. And in between, I also learned how to be a dog trainer, and I ran dog training companies for years. And that was lots of fun, and learned how to connect with animals and do that kind of reading, because especially dogs and cats, but I've even read for guinea pigs, believe it or not. You know, whatever pet comes along, I'm happy to tune in and see what we can get. Well, you know what?
People love their fur babies.
Well, absolutely. And you know what? Anything that's alive, anything that has an energy, has information attached to it, right? So whether it's a person that we're reading, or an animal that we're reading, or, you know, tuning into something in nature. I mean, how many people have walked into a beautiful place in nature and they just feel overwhelmed with the beauty and the spirit that's there, and they feel inspired, right? It's like, well, there's something to that. There's also information there. You know, they may bask in the energy of that beautiful sunset, or that sunrise, or that beautiful ocean scene. But there's also information there if they know to listen for it and to open up. And that's the other favorite thing I love to do, is teach people how to tune into their intuition and be a channel and understand how they can bring through the things that bring them joy, that they can share with others, that they can help others with. Because I think if we're focused on love and kindness and service to others, boy, the heavens just open up to support us in our quest to help others. At least that's my belief in what I've been finding in my life. How about you?
Like I tell people, it ain't no thinking thing. When it's the small voice that says, stop, don't walk out in front of that car. It's not the chatter voice. So you need to listen to that small voice. And as the men say, your gut feeling, that's usually always right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Now, your book has different chapters in it, the Creative Not Now. And the beginning of it says, I like the one where it says take time, finances, and then time at the end. Time is the most important thing that we have.
Yes.
It's so important. And make the time to do things and make the time to have.
So if you think about the suit of pentacles, that's the 5-pointed star that's in the tarot deck. That whole suit is all about balance. And each of those 5 points are one of those 5 aspects. It's the finances, which is your money and your toys, your health, your relationships with others, your spirituality, which is how well are you in touch with something greater than self and expressing your creativity and your soul's purpose. And then time, which to me is the balance of work, rest, and play. And so it's so important that, for somebody to have that richness in the quality of their life, they need to look at all 5 of those aspects. And too often, if somebody's saying, I'm struggling in my life, I'm going to ask them, which one of those areas are you not paying attention to? Which one of those areas do you need to focus on a little bit and bring back into balance, so that instead of being like having everybody that's pulling the oars on your boat pulling in different directions, you get everybody in alignment and you're like, okay, we all are focused on the same goal. We know where we're going. We're working together as a team, and off we go. And then you get the results, right?
And I believe that coins always mean fall time. That's usually a fall time card.
Which one is?
Coins.
Coins. Okay.
Yeah, it's usually fall time.
Just finding coins, when people find coins, that sort of thing? Or
the cards, diners or coins.
Oh, okay.
And the tarot. It's usually
okay. You look at them that way. Okay, sure. Yeah. Well, there's so many different decks out there.
Each suit means a different month or a different season.
Oh, okay. That's fun.
Yeah.
I started reading tarot when I was much younger, and I experimented with a lot of different decks. But then I really came to appreciate the Aquarian deck. And a really good friend and colleague of mine, Craig Gingulis, wrote the book Psychic Tarot, which was the companion book for that deck. And over the years, out of both respect for him and just because I find that that's such a great deck to use, it's very neutral, balanced, male and feminine, that I could use that when I'm reading in public. So I'm very and most familiar with that deck. But I like that. And I wasn't aware of that aspect as far as the suits and correlating to seasons. So that's fun.
I use the Robert Henson deck myself. I like that one. That's the one that I read from.
Sure.
And then there's always the Rider-Waite. That's the starter deck for everybody.
That's that's the one I started with years and years ago. Exactly.
Like I tried to do a tarot class one time and everybody was bringing their own decks. That was too confusing.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't understand that things like tarot decks or pendulums or oracle cards or angel cards, rune stones, all of these things, they're just tools to help us focus our intuition and get the messages in there. There's no power in and of those tools.
No.
Right? And so, some people, they just don't understand that. And it's like, it just makes it easier to have something to focus on while we're talking, right? You and I both know as a clairvoyant or a clairsentient, we can sit there and we can very easily talk to somebody and answer questions without the tools. But
Right.
for most people, it makes them feel much more comfortable if you're throwing some cards or using some tools, because then they're like, oh, okay, they can kind of follow along and make sense of it and see where it's going. And, you know, it gives them a little bit, puts them more at ease, which helps them be more open, which then helps the reading be much
And it
more
helps them
effective.
focus. They aren't
Exactly.
thinking about doing dishes and laundry. You know?
Right. Or sitting there wondering, like, what's she seeing or how's she seeing it, or, you know, whatever,
Right.
imagining whatever in their own minds, you know, they're able to engage and be part of it as well, because it's fun, especially with the cards, whether they're angel cards or the tarot cards. People can look at them themselves and they'll get an impression and they'll be like, wow, you know, I really feel strongly, I resonate with that card, or, oh, wow, what does that one mean? Or, oh, that one scares me, I wonder why. Oh, okay, let's dig in and find out what's going on.
Right.
So,
and like teaching, you know, I tell everybody, I'll give them the meanings in the beginning, and then I say, guess what we're going to do? We're going to throw away the papers, and you're going to read them and read the pictures. They're like, oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, that's the way I teach people how to read is I said, whatever deck you're going to use, I don't care whether it's tarot, angel, oracle cards, you name it. I don't care. Right. You need to get to know each card. Right. So take the time to look at the card right side up, upside down. You can at first you can read what the companion book says or the pamphlet says that goes with it. Sure, just to give you some ideas. But then notice what you notice about that card. Right. And
the colors, the symbols,
the colors. Exactly. Right. And then right. And then you can start to see, like, okay, maybe next lay out all the aces of the 4 suits or all the queens of the 4 suits. What is different between each one? And, you know, so what if you got this queen versus this queen? Why do you think you would have gotten this one versus another one? What's different about it? How does that suit come into play? Look at all of the characters of the suits and see what are some of the messages there. Right. So that kind of learning, it takes time, but it's so worth it, because now it's a tool that you know, I don't want to say intimately, but you know really well. And so when you see that card, you're like, oh, yep, I see that card. I know what that card means, even before you get to the book, because you've taken the time to see. And you know what it means to you is what's most
what it means to another person.
Right. Because 2 readers, you and I, Kelly Jo, could have the exact same spread that we put out for somebody else. And if you recorded the messages of what we said, probably would be different. We would hit some of the same high notes, low notes, what to be aware of, what to, focus on, you know, the positive and the negatives. But it's not going to be exactly the same, because we have our own interpretations of, oh, when I get the death card, it rarely truly means death. For me, it is the transformation. I'm almost always focused on the sun rising in the distance in that card. Occasionally, it might be that there's somebody that's passed, but it's so much more about the death of the old and the rebirth into something new and exciting, right? You know, that may not be for everybody. Somebody else, that card may literally mean just an ending, or, you know, prepare for some bad news. But that's typically not for my interpretations, because that's what the card talked to me and told me when I was getting to know it. I'm like, okay, so what's the question I would ask it? And I have cards here, right? So I might grab it and say, okay, what's the most important thing I need to know about this particular night? And this card is the Knight of Pentacles, right? So if I got this for somebody, it would be, oh, well, the pentacle first is all about balance, right? And so if I was reading for a man, I might say, well, if you want to be somebody's knight in shining armor, you better make sure that your life is balanced, that you have all of your 5 parts put together, right? That your finances are together, that your health is good, that you know how to be in relationship and give and take with somebody, that you have a sense of spirituality and creativity, and you know what your soul's purpose is, that you have a balance of time, work, rest, and play. Because guess what? If you're out of balance in those things, you can't be in relationship with somebody in a way, especially to be their hero, right? To be that knight in shining armor in the world and to set the example and be the hero if you're out of balance. So that card, you know, that's the kind of things that would pop in, you know, when I was looking at that card. Somebody else might look at it and they might say, oh, well, there's armor. oh, well, you might be too guarded right now. Or they might focus on the little tassel on the top and say, oh, you know what? You're always going off into like the imaginations and these wild and grand ideas that never lead you anywhere. Right. So it really depends what part of the card draws our attention as the reader in the context for the person that's in front of us. Right. So that's why there's no hard and fast rule of, oh, this card means this all the time in this place. And then, of course, there's how do you read, right? What kind of spreads do you use? Because there's astrological spreads, there's the Celtic cross spreads, there's little past, present, future spreads. There's a have a thought and pick a card spread, which isn't really a spread, but
it's however you choose to do it.
Exactly.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah. And then it's also, why are you reading? Why did you come to somebody like me, right? Are you looking for guidance? Are you looking for comfort? Are you looking for insights and inspiration, right? It's like, what is it that you're looking for? We aren't the answer people. We should be validating back to the person thoughts that they've had, feelings that they've had, that they go, yep, yep, yep. And because we don't know them, it's very compelling that it's the voice of spirit giving them that thumbs up or that extra, yep, you heard it right. This is what you need to do, go forward. And so for a lot of people, that life coaching, spiritual coaching perspective is very meaningful, much more so than if I just tell them something and it's like, gee, I never thought of that before, or gee, that doesn't make sense to me. I always tell people, if you're on the client side, whatever you're hearing should ring true in your gut. It should make sense to you. It should ring true. It should validate something that you've already been thinking. And that's spirit's way of helping you to know that you're correct. And if it doesn't ring true, then you better ask some more questions of that person that's reading for you and try to get to, clarify or deep dive. Don't just sit there and accept something that doesn't feel right, because you, the individual, is the true psychic, right? We're tuning into your energy. And so if it doesn't feel right to you, it's not right. So we need to, figure out what's going on there. Right? Do you find that
people are so closed down, you'll be reading for them and they'll say, no, 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 no.
Right.
And then they get mad at you. You tell them something they don't like and they ask you to change your mind. And it's like, I'm not changing my mind. This is what I get. I'm sorry.
Yeah. 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 It's really important that we, as the channelers or the mediums or the psychics and readers, and the coaches, that we are being true to the voice of spirit. Right. And if we have the deal with spirit that, okay, if we hear it, we're going to share it, right? Or if it's coming through, it's because that's what that person needs to hear. And that's our truth. That's part of what empowers us and helps us have the connections so that we can share the messages and be helpful and serve somebody. Some people just, they need to have that spiritual hug and the kick in the butt at the same time. Right. And too many people do one or the other, but they don't know how to do both. And I think that, when you've been in this field long enough, you know how to balance both. So they feel uplifted and loved and validated and seen. Right. And they've also gotten some homework to do.
Right. Absolutely. And when we tell somebody no or something they don't want to hear, it isn't out of spite. It's out of, it's like, I know you don't want this. Usually it's a relationship to end, or this thing is toxic for you. It's not good for your soul, and they're like, but I love them and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm sorry. You can do what you want to do. I cannot tell you what to do, but,
Yeah. And what I think sometimes, and I've had it in my own life, and I think everybody has at some point in time, we don't want to see the red flags, right? We're following the emotions, we're following our hearts. We want to always think the best of the other people, situation. I don't know about you. I tend to be a big time optimist, so much so people tease me about it. But I I always believe in the best of human nature, the best of a situation. I'm always expecting good things. I'll prepare for the bad, but I'll always expect the good.
Right.
And so, that to me, it's like, okay, that's where my blind spot can be. Right. So when I go to a reader myself, I'm like, okay, so tell me what I'm not seeing for myself. Or if I go to an astrologer, I'm like, okay, what are my blind spots? What's coming up that I just haven't been paying attention to that I need to? Right. And that's another benefit of having a reading with somebody or having a session. And, learning how to do it for yourself is great. But you know what? You can't always read for yourself.
No.
Because if you are too subjective, if you care about an outcome, remember back to the card, right? What draws your attention? If you know all the possible meanings of it, your subconscious wants a certain outcome. It'll be like, oh, great. This card means blah, blah, blah. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. But it might not be the objective truth of what Spirit's trying to tell you, because you've hijacked it by your own subjective wants and needs and desires, which is why it's really a good idea to have somebody else to kind of bounce things off of, whether that's a mentor, a guide, a counselor, a reader, somebody that you can trust that's going to tell it to you straight. Because the other thing, my pet peeve in this field, I don't know how much you've seen this, Kelly Jo, but I saw a lot of it when I was working the fairs, is the people that would, the readers that would just tell people what they think they wanted to hear, regardless of what the situation was. And I was like, come on, that's not fair. That is not helping that person evolve or work with their issues or figure out what they need to do to actually get that result they want. Telling them, oh yeah, it's right around the corner and you're going to get that, when it's not what you're saying. Just because, oh yeah, I'll be that popular reader. No. You have to be willing to tell them the hard stuff. And sometimes there's black ice and you got to be careful. You got to give them that warning.
Well,
right?
I try to be tactful, but I'm known as the blunt reader. And you can take my mouth shut and it'll come out my ears.
Well, or one of my favorite ones, ladies, is that for $500, I'll get rid of that curse.
Remove the curse. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, come on now, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, excuse me. I have people call me up bawling saying, how much did you get you for?
Oh, my gosh.
Like, no.
Yeah. I actually, that reminds me of a funny story. When I was a baby psychic many, many years ago, I was living in Connecticut, and there was a Hispanic family that had called me up and said that a Santeria high priestess had put a curse on their son, and the poor kid was losing jobs and having accidents and was sick and all this other stuff. And, could I help? And I said, well, that's not my thing, However, I'd be happy to come and do an energy healing session and tune into his energy and clear his aura and see what I could do to help. So I was living alone at the time, and I had a healing room set up in one of the bedrooms in my house. And so 3 men show up. One was the driver. One was the young man who had the issue, and the other was the translator, because they only spoke Spanish and I didn't. And so I'm like, these 3 guys are coming into my house. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into here? And so, but they were lovely, wonderful, kind. And I could see how troubled the young man was. So I worked on that. But one of the things I did is, before they came, I did some research on looking up, okay, if I was in that culture, how would I clear that kind of curse? How would I what kind of things would I do between, burning sage or incense, or using different kinds of chimes or rattles or shamanic tools? And so I was ready, and I knew what kind of things that, from a cultural point of view, would help him have the belief system as well, that now it's cleared. And so energetically asking my guides and angels and the loved ones in spirit to help work on the spiritual side, and working with him on this side to make sure he understood he was free from that influence. And so that was my experience with that. But yeah, those people, there should be a special place in hell for people that abuse animals, or that convince people they're under curses and then their whole lives go down the toilet. Those people should have a special place in hell as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, I'm from New York originally, so I'm pretty direct too there, Kelly Jo. So, which is why my next podcast is going to be called Spiritual Straight Talk with Althea, because I think there's not enough people that are willing to just tell it straight out there. Too many people dance around the issues, right? So that's...
I call it doing bunnies and flowers.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Yeah. Well, we all want to see the happy endings, right? We believe in a happily ever after. We're all on our own hero's journey, and we want to believe that we're going to hear that call to adventure, that we're going to have helpers along the way, that we're going to find the gifts and the revelation and be able to bring it back as the returning hero of our own story, right? That's so in our culture. It's in our DNA as humans, right? That's part of what we're here for. And I think what most people don't realize is our own personal hero's journey is to come to the awareness of what our soul's purpose is in this lifetime. What did we come here to learn? What did we come here to express? How did we come here to love and serve and experience this amazing world that we live in with each other?
Absolutely. And I believe in playing well in the sandbox together. I'm not going to take my Tonka truck and gork you on the head.
Right. I loved watching the Olympics. This it just ended. Those last 2 weeks, it just ended on Sunday, and it was so inspiring and hopeful to see all the people of the world that gathered, right? All these athletes and the coaches and the support staff. And, not only did all Paris come together and France come together to support this, but, it was on TV everywhere and people around the world were watching. And I thought to myself, this is how life really should be. This is how we are as individuals. We live together in peace. We compete and we love and support each other in the competition. I saw these athletes cheering for each other, and celebrating with each other. And it was this sense of, wow, what makes the disharmony, I think, is it's not the people, it's the governments, it's other forces. When people get together, we're all the same. We want to be happy. We want a fulfilling life. We want safety. We want our family to have, the house and the food and everything that they need, So I'm like, wow, it was such a good reminder and wake up call of like what's possible if we choose. And what a shame it's only every 2 years, every other 4 years for the summer and then 4 years for the Winter Olympics. So it's every 2 years the world gathers somewhere for this sense of community and sportsmanship and oneness, and at the end of the Olympic ceremony, as they were closing it, the guy that runs the chairman for the Olympic Committee, he says, I call upon the youth of the world to gather in LA 4 years from now in 2028. And I was thinking, well, you know what? It's not just the youth of the world that has to gather in our hearts, in our souls, in our minds. We have to all have that sense of, you know what? We are different in our ways. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, but we can come together as a society, as a community. And so to me, even something like that, I found it a very spiritually uplifting experience watching these athletics and then realizing like, oh my God, I got to get back to the gym. Get back to school.
Really?
Just like, wow. It's so inspired by the excellence, and people being the best at what they're doing, but more than that heart that they shared and that love that they shared and that fellowship and sisterhood that they shared. It was so beautiful. If you haven't watched it, any of the viewers haven't seen that, go back and watch some of the highlights on YouTube. It's so uplifting, so beautiful.
Yes, very, very, very.
Now, what's your abilities? Did anybody else in your family have them? Did they get passed down to you? Explain that to us, please.
Yeah, so I am the oldest daughter of the oldest daughter of the oldest daughter on my mom's side. And so my grandmother had great intuition. My mom was very intuitive. I couldn't get away with anything as a kid. And when they realized that I had some gifts, they were very encouraging and, gave me different tools. And like, so one of the funny things was, my dad was a bit of a skeptic, although his mom was also the oldest and was very intuitive as well. Nana had both my nanas had tremendous intuition, and my dad couldn't get away with anything either, right? But so when he heard that I had the gift, he was like, what can we do with this? So my aunt, who also had a very strong intuition as well, he said, oh, I know. Let me give them a Ouija board and ask the spirits for the winning numbers at the track, right? So what horses would win. And so for the first couple of times we did it, we actually picked the daily doubles and there's new furniture in the house, new drapes in the house, new rugs. He was like such a fan. But then for a while, I'm like, no, this doesn't feel right. This is not what this is for. It's not for creating wealth, that they'll work with us somewhat to like prove that, yeah, you're in connection and it's working. but that was fun. But yeah, it was definitely a part of my family. And then when the movie The Exorcist came out, I was about the same age as the girl in the movie. And it just freaked my mom out. And I was raised Catholic. And so all of a sudden she was like, okay, taking away the tools. It's like, okay, let's burn the Ouija board. Let's take away all the rest of the stuff. But by that point, I had already worked with the tools. And the only reason I really stopped with the Ouija board, honestly, is it's just too darn slow. Who wants to go there and go letter by letter by letter when you can just open up and talk to them and, get whole sentences at a time instead of a word at a time.
There you go.
Practical. It was more practical. Because again, there's nothing in the tool, right? For someone to say, oh, the Ouija board is evil. No, it's not. It's just a tool. How are you using it? What are you inviting in? Are you asking for protection? Are you praying before you start? Are you, creating this wonderful energy of white light around you?
Right. And always say a prayer of protection.
Right. And asking your guides
who it is, who it comes
angels,
from.
Have a gatekeeper in spirit to make sure that only positive energies come through, right? And only the higher wisdoms, right? I don't want a spirit who doesn't know as much as I know here. Like I remember Stuart Wilde, God bless him. I worked with him years and years ago in Taos, New Mexico. And he's a man who lived up to his name. His last name, Wilde, really suited him. And I remember him talking about mediumship a lot back in those days. And he said, look, you don't want to just tune in to any random spirit. He says, because if Uncle Fred was dumb as a plank 10 minutes before he died, he's still going to be dumb as a plank 10 minutes after he died. So why do you want to talk to somebody who's dumb as a blank? Be more selective in the spirits that you want to communicate with. So, one of the prayers that I know a lot of mediums will say is when they open, they'll invite beings that are far more evolved, that are more loving, that have far greater wisdom, insights, and guidance than we have here now, right? That they have information that we just don't have because we're limited on this side of the veil. And that's really important to do. And, I come from a Christian frame. I ask the Holy Spirit to help me. I ask for guardian angels. I ask for loved ones in spirit, that I know have done good work, or dedicated their life to the service of others to, okay, come work through me. Come talk to me. Come help me help this person. Help me comfort this person. What's the most important thing that I can share with this person to give them insight or guidance or direction and help them at that next bit, right?
And ask that it be for
somebody. Somebody come through.
Ask that it be for their highest good.
Exactly. And highest good for all involved, right? Because you don't want to just, and that's part of the learning. I think one of the downsides of social media and having such easy access is a lot of people don't work with one-on-one necessarily with masters or trainers or experts in the field. And they do a lot of experimentation on their own. And I totally encourage people to have curiosity and playfulness and definitely try tools. but make sure you do your due diligence to understand, what it like. If I was going to give you a water pistol, go ahead, knock yourself out. No big thing. If I'm going to give you a flamethrower, you might want to read the instructions, right? So depending on the tools that you're experimenting with, you might want to do a little bit more homework and make sure that you are protecting yourself, creating a good positive space. You have the knowledge you need, you have the right intention, you're paying attention, you have expectations of a positive outcome for you and for whoever you're doing this for. And there's no reason you can't experiment and play with some intuitive tools just to see like, well, what do I get when I play with this? And see where your strengths are. Because just like in life with everything, right? Everyone has a different interests and different strengths. And even I like to compare psychic stuff to the field of music, right? Because I think music is another one of those human potentials that we all share. Well, there's child prodigies, of course, that are born. But you know what? There's musical families. And if you were born into a musical family, most likely you would play an instrument, you would sing, you would have a love of music or an appreciation of it. If you weren't born into a musical family, but you had a love of that, you might be drawn to a specific instrument. Some people want to sing, some want to play the cello, some want to play the flute. Okay, and through practicing, other people, the piano, the guitar, whatnot, you know what? If you put in the time and it's something that you really love and you learn how to do it, you'll make beautiful music. Our psychic skills are the same way. We come from intuitive DNA. How do I know that? Because we're here. Our ancestors were intuitive enough not to pick the cave that had the saber-toothed tiger in it. They knew the cave that was empty, right? They didn't go out into the woods when the grizzly bear is there. Oh, sorry, no offense there, grizzly.
I'm good. So, yeah.
And, some of the grizzlies back there weren't as friendly as you. So,
that's right.
Right? So we come from generation after generation that survived in these harsh elements of the planet. And it's only in probably the last 100 years or so that it wasn't a prime directive of our being to tune into our intuition to survive. Right. Little by little, it became easier just to live without it. And we started coming into community in different ways. But if you go and you check out any of the indigenous peoples still, and the ones that have worked hard to retain their cultures, they are extremely intuitive and in touch with nature and in touch with the animals and in touch with each other, and can do all the telepathic types of wonders and healing wonders that is part of our birthright as human beings, as spiritual beings in this human body. We're supposed to be able to work miracles of healing and be able to communicate and tune in and do all these other wonderful things. We just forgot how. So most of what our learning is remembering and experimenting and helping each other figure out, well, what's your strength? Do you hear things, or are you really good at seeing the pictures? Right. Or do you feel things in your gut? Do you have this knowing? I get downloads a lot, and I feel like I get this like ticker tape that's dumped into my head, and I'm just reading it like, oh, and then there's this, and then there's like, it comes to me whole form and so fast that I have to deconstruct it in a way and make it where I can a little bit at a time say, okay, and then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this. And especially, right? We open up to the highest energies that are out there, and then we bring it through our heart. If you do those two things, you will be able to help anybody. Spirit will work through you because we're all part of spirit, and that's what connects us. The intention to connect, and then working from that place of love. There's no judgment in spirit.
No ego.
Spirit, it's all about kindness, love, and his truth in the American way. I feel like it's the Superman commercial all of a sudden.
Yeah, so I want to read something. Liana King, bless her heart, she's got a warm soul. And for all the audio listeners on iHeartRadio, Google, Spotify, she says The problem with the Ouija board is it's too slow. And now she's like, that is the favorite statement of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, when she said that, I chuckled. I was like, I never heard that. It's too slow. I'm like, yeah, that rocks. So yeah, I had to bring that up, Liana. Thanks for sharing that, because we all did laugh. And how do people find you and reach out to you?
Sure. So my website is my name, altheajacob.com. So Althea is spelled a little funny. My mom wanted to get both meanings of my name in Greek. So she spelled it Aletheia and pronounced it Althea versus Alethea. So the only thing silent about me is that first D in my name there. But anyway, so if you remember that, it'll be easy to find me. So it's altheajacob.com is my website. I have a podcast I've already started back in April called Spiritually Speaking with Althea, but I'm going to be launching a new interactive podcast. Mr. Grizzly there is going to help me because I love this live format. I love being able to interact with people. And the other one is more of a teaching, sharing kind of website, but podcast. But the one that we're going to be launching, Straight Talk, Spiritual Straight Talk with Althea, that'll be coming up. Also, for anybody who's interested in learning about their own intuition a little bit more, I'm going to be co-hosting a retreat in Sedona in November 8th, 9th, and 10th. I'll be doing that with Craig Janjulis. He is a shaman and a Western mystic who lives in Sedona. He teaches most of the time in Japan, but he's also back. And we're going to do a workshop to help empower people. It's called The Path to Empowerment, and it's going to help people access and develop their intuition. So that's on my website. You can find that in the event page. And my books, both books, okay, both books are on Amazon.com. And the one book here, I just want to talk a tiny bit more about the Portal to Potential. All the proceeds from this book go to the scholarship fund of the Monroe Institute. At this book, because it is a compilation of inspired writings from spirit, what most people will probably be interested in is the back half of the book, which are questions that spirit prompted me to ask so that we could figure out, are we on the right path? Are we living our soul's purpose? And so the questions that are there and some of the random thoughts to ponder, those are probably the most meaningful parts of the book, but you can find both of those on Amazon.com. They're also on Kindle. And, feel free to email me. All my contact information is on my website. I do private sessions, workshops, retreats, whatever y'all want. Right now, my whole legacy, I never had kids. So my legacy basically is how I share the information, help teach the next few generations, having that positive impact on people's lives. That's what brings me joy. That's my purpose, to kind of be that bridge between the worldly folks and the metaphysical folks and say, okay, worldly folks, wake up. You're more than your physical body. There's this whole other spiritual world that you have access to. And for all you people that are way too woo-woo out there, you got to tone it down. You got to figure out how to make it accessible and straight talk for people so that they'll feel like, oh, I can do this too. And they'll want to experiment and they'll have a sense of curiosity and wonder and say, well, geez, all right. Well, if somebody has those gifts, well, I must have some too. Or maybe I have those because I keep getting drawn to that and interested in that. And I love reading about it. And I love people that do that. It's probably a sign that that's one of the things that you can do too. You just have to figure out how, or find a teacher, read about it, learn about it, have some fun.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you did not hear what she said, she is now part of the Outlaw family. So make sure and give her welcome to the show. And her show will be launching shortly, and we'll get everything together. So, yeah. So welcome to the Outlaw family. Nice to have you. And she's going to bring some different content to the channel and some different views. So nice to have you there. And thanks again. And Kelly Jo, what do you think?
I think it was fun tonight. And thank you and welcome. Good to have you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know what? I love to say it. And from coast to coast, around the world, everybody, Godspeed. And we'll catch you on tomorrow's show. If you need anything, reach out and let us know. Take care. Love you guys. Godspeed.
YouTube channel near you.